Tinker and Bell Counseling and Rent out of Westwoods. I'm a licensed professional counselor.
And I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
And Kelly works with clients coming from all sorts of backgrounds, trauma mostly, and attachment work.
Yes.
And and so we just want to offer a short little time of connecting with you all. If you have your warm drink, or if you're a mom like us, it's probably cold by now, or lukewarm. But Kelly and I were just talking a little bit about what we've been experiencing this past week and wanted to share it with you guys and some of our insights.
Yes. So Allison, I'm curious, just talk a little bit more about what you've been feeling this week and what you've been noticing.
Yes, I have been noticing. I had a day a couple days ago where I just could not get off the couch. I felt really depressed. I felt down, and I didn't feel a desire to reach out to anybody or really do anything. I was doing my best to parent my kid, and that was my best, and that was enough. And I noticed a lot of, just in general, every day, not just this day, but just a lot of emotional eating. That's something I go to for comfort and coping. So that was probably the worst day I've had with all this COVID-19 stuff, is just wanting to disconnect. And I knew it wasn't good for me, but I felt like I knew that was just where I was at.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Yeah, I mean, similar. Like, I think some days are definitely better than others, but really noticing like a ton of hard emotions that are there. I think for me, the primary one has just been anxiety and fear. And I know, talking with a lot of clients too, that anxiety of just the unpredictability has been really, really triggering. I think, even being in the attachment field, like when we look at attachment with even our primary caregivers growing up, a lot of us have what we kind of call anxious attachment, which was very much based around the unpredictability of, will our caregivers meet our needs? What can we depend on our caregivers for? And I think right now, in this kind of collective trauma we're all in with the medical systems and everything, there's a lot of anxiety, I know for me, of just the unpredictability of, who will be there to meet my needs if I have needs, or who will be there to meet my loved ones' needs if there's needs. And that brings up a lot of anxiety, and I know a lot of panic for people, for sure.
And we're hearing that from some of our clients as well, and from some of our colleagues, clients as well, that what they're reporting is just the unpredictability, and how will my needs be met? Can I trust myself to meet my own needs? And even like in a larger scale, what's the government doing to meet our needs? And what's going to happen? We don't know. And so the unpredictability is really triggering this panic, anxious attachment response for a lot of us.
Totally. Yeah. And I know even with, how you mentioned just like the emotional eating, like I think it's so real right now. Like, there's so many uncomfortable emotions a lot of us are experiencing. And some of us, like, uncomfortable emotions are petrifying. So for some of us, we don't even know what they are. We just don't even ever pay attention to them. So I think, I'd be curious, what are your thoughts on kind of the different ways you're seeing clients or yourself kind of numb out, when these uncomfortable emotions are coming up?
Yes. And yes, a way to understand what some of these things are. What are you most wanting to go to soothe or comfort yourself that ultimately isn't going to do it, but it just meets the need briefly or in that moment? And so for me, that's eating when I'm not hungry, and I think that's super common. And just identifying that, and I don't have a lot of judgment around it, other than knowing if I continue down this road, it can get out of control real fast. Like, I'm going to spiral here. And I've noticed in my household a lot of phone usage going up, screen time going up, which this is not judgment. I'm just saying what it is in my own life and my experience. For clients, I know some drug use is going up and alcoholism is going up, it's reported from some of my clients.
Is going up. Yeah. I just said porn.
How about
going up? Yeah. Absolutely. And I think even in my own house, like I know for me, busyness is absolutely like a way I numb out. So if I dare a friend to come over, like every closet is like ridiculous. And oh, just the cleaning I can do to try to have this illusion of control when things are out of control. It can absolutely become an addiction just to create order from chaos. And I can tell I'm just going into overdrive with some of those behaviors because I'm just trying. I don't want to sit still long enough to actually have to feel the anxiety or feel the fear or the sadness that I know is underneath the surface. It's much easier to numb, much easier to run.
And so for you, that looks like busyness and cleaning. And can you say more about that? That it's much easier to run. It's much easier for you to plunge into every junk drawer, every closet and rearrange it. For me, it's easier to just disconnect and isolate even more and kind of like go inward in a lot of ways and disconnect. So put some more language to that. Oh, we glitched out. Are you
Yeah.
there?
No, I think it's so real. Like, oftentimes, Allison, when a client comes in, one of the things we often talk about is just how much of the healing journey is about getting comfortable with uncomfortable emotions. Like, that's kind of emotional and mental maturity in many ways is, yeah, getting a sense of comfort around some of these uneasy things that come up in us, and accepting those things and welcoming those things and letting them teach us versus just avoiding them. And I think for me, like, you know it it's so easy to try to outrun the emotions, and I notice it's only when I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, things are coming out sideways relationally that I oftentimes have to notice and recognize and stop and say, okay, I'm not well. Like I have things that are going on emotionally that I'm just not attending to. And until I do, I'm not I'm not going to be right. And so that ability to slow down and actually face the hard feelings, I think is where the money's at and where like I think real change. Money.
That's where the money is at.
That's where the money's.
That's where the value is.
That.
The hard thing is the valuable thing. The easy thing is for some of us, the pornography or watching more TV and binging on Netflix and phones and emotional eating and organizing closets, disconnecting, sometimes being the hero. Sometimes some of those things can look really good and our culture can glorify. I don't want to get off track and go down a bunny trail. Those are the things that can be easy for some of us. But at the end of the day, the worth and the emotional work and the most valuable thing is to press into what are we trying to run away from or what are we trying to numb out from.
Totally. I think, yeah, and it brings me back. I know last week we talked a little bit about just the collective trauma, and it brings me back to that idea like trauma craves noise and loves adrenaline, but it needs quiet. Like, especially right now with so much happening, I think pressing into that quiet and understanding what's happening, on a much deeper, more visceral level is a necessary thing right now.
Absolutely. So the language we were putting to it when we were chatting beforehand of how we guide our clients and challenge ourselves, we have to challenge ourselves as well,
Yeah.
is to move toward the fear, the panic, the anxiety, the numbness, to move towards what are we numbing out from or running away from. And the language that I like to say when I'm sitting down is, I welcome you in, fear and panic. I welcome you in and I consent to what you have to teach me. You won't overcome me. I won't be lost in you, but I need to learn from what you're trying to teach me. And you offered up a really cool piece of research. What has science shown about putting language and identifying that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating. Like research and kind of brain imaging shows us that just just the ability for us to accurately put language to an underlying emotion we're experiencing or an underlying experience we're having, the way we're getting triggered, that alone has a self-soothing mechanism. in our brain. Like that alone releases chemical output that soothes and kind of relaxes our nervous systems. And I think that can be so healing, I think, for us. So often we want to fix it and we want to make it go away. But I think for
Yeah.
everyone to remember right now, just the ability to say to your spouse, to a friend, to whoever, like, I'm feeling anxious because I'm being triggered in this way, or I want to numb out this way because I'm really feeling lost and scared. Whatever it is, like that alone soothes us. That alone can comfort us right now.
It does. Just simply naming it and not trying to fix it or tame it or do anything else with it, but naming that emotion or that experience that you're trying to block out with all the other things.
Absolutely.
The time flies. We want to make sure that we keep it to the time frame that we were hoping to. So I want to end with this, you guys. I want to end by saying we are here for you, Kelly and myself. We offer 20 minutes of our time. If you want to schedule that, you can go to our website. We'll have less information so that you can call us if you just want to talk through. If you want to name it to us and just say, this is what I'm experiencing. If you want to post it on the comments, go for it. Also, what we'll post is there is a 24/7 crisis line in Denver. And so in Colorado, I think it's statewide actually. You can text and you can call about anything. If anything crisis related, if you just want to talk it through with a master's level clinician, they're there. And I've used it personally for myself, and I recommend it to almost every single client I see. So we will see you guys again next week for Coffee with Alison and Kelly.
Oh, there you guys. Cheers.